Formula E is an all-electric single-seater world championship that's taken place every year since 2014. It's primarily run on street tracks rather than dedicated circuits, and the regulations ensure the cars are very similar, with a large number of control parts including the battery. Therefore, it's very different to other top-level single-seater championships. As a motorsport fan, you'll undoubtedly have your own opinion on the series format and whether it's as exciting to watch as petrol-powered single-seaters. But one thing you might not be so sure about is what a Formula E car is actually like to drive. So to find out, I've taken a trip to Circuit Mallorca in the Balearic Islands to have a go in Porsche's official Gen 2 Formula E car. I've been fortunate enough to drive many racing cars, but this is my first time in an electric single-seater, and as far as I know, I'm one of the first people outside of the team to get behind the wheel. As it's the Gen 2 car, this is the predecessor to the one that Porsche Works drivers Antonio Felix da Costa and Pascal Wehrlein are piloting in the 2024 championship, but it's still a proper piece of kit. Headline stats are as follows. It produces up to 335 brake horsepower, weighs just 900 kilograms, including the driver, accelerates from 0 to 62 miles an hour in less than 3 seconds, and has a top speed in excess of 170 miles an hour. Sounds impressive, but the later Gen 3 cars are delivering 470 brake horsepower with an even lighter curb weight. Just because they don't make the sound of F1 cars or Le Mans hypercars doesn't mean they're not blisteringly quick. And when climbing into the carbon fibre and aluminium monocoque frame, it definitely feels like a bona fide single-seater.
So just getting strapped into the Formula E car now, and it feels every bit like a single-seater. You've got that unmistakable look ahead of you with the long nose and the halo, and it's very snug in here. Apparently I've got the same body shape as Andre Lotterer, who's the reserve driver, which I think is a compliment. I'm quite pleased I managed to fit. It's not too bad, it's just very snug.
Sitting behind the wheel, the car itself didn't feel hugely intimidating for some reason. Sure, the charging process, complete with men in rubber gloves and an insulated rescue hook, makes the car look like it's ingesting half the Mallorcan power grid, but in reality, the battery is much smaller than a Porsche Taycan Turbo, for example, and there's less power too. That's because A, the focus is on great racing rather than outright speed, and B, the weight of the car is always a sore subject with EVs. The fact that the Gen 3 car comes in at 840 kilograms, again including the driver, is actually pretty impressive.
So exiting the pit garage in a 300 brake horsepower as normal, but in attack mode. 340 brake horsepower, 900 kilogram single-seater. 0 to 60 should be about 2.8 seconds. Let's see what it feels like with the limiter off. Ooh, hello. Lulls you into a false sense of security, just not having any engine noise, as a lot of EVs do, but it's certainly got some pace. And the torque is instant, wow. Coming down the back straight. Ooh. Into the hairpin, there's definitely a bit of push at the front end. Tyres aren't fully up to temperature yet, although I don't think it'll take long. They are threaded Michelin Pilot Sports. Got a little readout like the 992, 911 Cup car that tells me if the wheels are locking up, which is handy. Yeah, there it is. You can just feel it. Yeah. You need to keep the trail braking right on point to make sure you get the grip over the front on turning, especially on this track where there's a lot of hairpins. A lot of hairpins, actually. Oh, right. Really good brake feel. surprisingly good brake feel actually. I was a bit unsure because we know what it can be like with regen in the brakes. It can spoil the brake pedal feel, but this is really nice. Smell a faint whiff of battery, which probably should come as no surprise. Yeah, just coming out of the slower corners, you've actually got to be very careful on the power, all that torque. Into attack mode. Probably a brake a bit later there.
After a few laps, it was clear that this was one of the more physical racing cars I'd driven, yet it stopped short of delivering the kind of neck-melting experience that's common with other single-seaters. The steering was heavy, but there wasn't the same outrageous grip levels you get from slicks, both in the corners and under braking.
Oh, wow. Wow. This is a proper racing car. It might not necessarily sound like one, but you get all the usual buzz, the physical experience, and also most importantly the fun. This is really good, enjoyable to drive. That was good fun. Feels like a bigger version of a go-kart, which sounds odd, but actually I'm not complaining about that because it felt chuckable, it felt like you could push it. There was a surprising amount of push at the front end, but then when you do come on the power, and if you have got a bit too much steering lock on, it reminds you just how much it's making and that it does do 0 to 62 mile an hour in 2.8 seconds. It's rear-wheel drive and it's got a lot of torque. So big takeaway from that was it was very good fun. And I'll be honest, I'm not an avid Formula E watcher. I've seen it, I know the concept, I know that it's mainly, if not entirely, done on street circuits. So taking it to, I'd say, a proper circuit, it's not a street circuit, but again, it's not Silverstone. But taking it out here, it was interesting to see how it behaves compared to how I thought it would be. Because the physicality is still there. The general feel of a single-seater is still there, but the difference is, I think, most noticeable in the noise, obviously. It doesn't sound like any other single-seater I've driven, and the tyres, they're a really, really big difference. They're not slicks, they're all-weather Michelin tyres. And I think the most important thing is that even though the limits are arguably lower, because largely the tyres, it is still a good car for close racing. I was speaking to Andre Lotterer, who's the reserve driver for the Porsche Formula E team, and he was explaining that it's a car that you can jump in and you can drive it quite quickly straight away, but then finding the last bit is actually quite difficult. It's really difficult, and it does get quite close. And obviously they've got the attack mode and other ways to differentiate, and there's a huge amount of setup that they can do on the cars to change it. It's quite surprising, actually, more than you'd expect. But at the end of the day, that was awesome, awesome fun. And although it's easy to say that because I've now driven it, hopefully you can just get a taster of it. And if you haven't seen Formula E before, then maybe give it a go, because that's a good racing car, regardless of whether it's petrol or EV. Wish it made a bit more noise, but that's not the end of the world. It's still good racing. So yeah, enjoyed that.
If you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to subscribe to the Car Magazine channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss any of our exciting feature videos in future.